Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the origins of Western art in ancient Greece and Rome. These cultures didn't just give us philosophy, democracy, and really dramatic myths. They also shaped how we think about art for millennia. Let's dive in and uncover the essence of ancient European art. Spoiler alert, it's more than broken statues and temples. So we're kicking off with ancient Greece, the OG influencer of Western art. Greek art is all about balance, harmony, and the human body at its finest, or at most idealized form and shape. It started around the 8th BC, so 8th century before Christ, and currently we group it as three main periods: art classical and Hellenistic. The oldest of the periods, archaic period, between the 8th century to 480 years BC. Now imagine this. In the beginning of Greek art, the kouros and core, statues stand stiff, almost awkward. They're like that one friend who's trying really hard to look casual but ends up looking just stiff and way too tense. Sculpture kouros, dated for around 6th century BC. This new athletic young man is supposed to represent an idealized version of youth. But his rigid pose, is it very truly youthful? You need to answer it yourself. Another great example from archaic period is black figure pottery. It didn't have only practical purpose. For example, Dionysus in a ship. Pottery was a big deal because it wasn't just for decoration, it told stories. So, for example, if you broke a cup, you didn't just break a cup, you wasted resources and energy in someone's hours, if not weeks, of craftsmanship and hard work. But you might be breaking the entire story of a god or breaking the whole myth. So, no pressure, I guess. The classical period is when Greece started to flex on others. Yes, think about the Discobolus. It's featuring literally a guy mid-disc throw, frozen in time, forever, until current days. You can almost feel the movement, and the sculpture is not standing still. It's telling the whole story. It's about ideal movement and proportions that, luckily for us, survived around 2,500 years. And of course, let's not forget the Parthenon in Athens. It's a perfect example of Doric architecture. The precision of its design is pretty mind-blowing. And considering that it was built 2,500 years ago, without all the modern tools, knowledge, and simply using hands and only natural materials, it's pretty insane if you ask me. The youngest and the most recent to our days period is Hellenistic period. It's estimated to last between 323 to 31st year before Christ. After Alexander the Great, Greek art got emotional. Well, I guess once we know how to move, we can talk about emotions. It became like a soap opera. Instead of perfect proportions and idealization, artists leaned into emotions. Look at the Laocoon and his sons. The expressions on their faces say it all. Pain, struggle, fear. It's like a Greek tragedy, but curved into marble. In architecture, during Hellenistic period, things got even flashier. The temple was Olympian Zeus in Athens, massive and designed to overwhelm. Unlike the Parthenon's elegance, that was all about scale. Because indeed, for Greeks during that period, size did matter. Let's shift our focus a little bit from Greece to Rome. And fast forward to the Romans, who, let's be honest, borrowed a lot from the Greeks. We cannot really say that Romans were very original. Well, they saw Greek art and thought, yeah, why can't we work with it, I guess? But of course with their own Italian twist, I would say. So There were also different periods in classical ancient Roman style. The oldest one is Republican Rome, which is between 509 to 27 year BC. Early Roman art was all about hyper-realism. Romans weren't into idealized beauty at first. They wanted their leaders to look like real battle-hardened dudes with wrinkles, scars, all that junk. The portrait of a Roman patrician. Every wrinkle on his face, it's practical a badge of honor. And if you think that back in the day, people weren't expecting to live until long, showing that your ruler lived until a decent age to have visible wrinkles on his face, I think they might have been onto something. In architecture, on the other hand, we've got the Temple of Parthenon, which looks Greek at first, but with some Roman innovations, like adding a high podium. Second, more recent period was Imperial Rome between 27 BC to 476. Once Augustus came along, everything became about power and glory. The Augustus of Prima Porta shows him in full godlike glory, even though we know no one looked that perfect. This was political art, which meant that to show him in his prime would prove his greatness as a leader, possibly also scare his enemies and increase his aura authority amongst his subjects. Also, it could indicate that he was this gorgeous man because he was blessed and chosen by gods. Architecturally, they were on fire. The Pantheon, groundbreaking. Its dome with the oculus at the top was an architectural masterpiece that we are delighted about till to these days. Roman engineering skills at its finest, and since I recently came back from Rome and I saw it in real life, I cannot agree more that it's a very, very great piece of architecture to see. And speaking of engineering, let's not forget about the famous Colosseum, also in Rome, the ultimate symbol of Roman grandeur. Imagine it, thousands of people, a full day of gladiators' fights, all in a building that's lasted almost 2000 years. Pretty incredible. And it was all built just to see how people were killing each other. Talking about men's ingeniousness. The third period in ancient Rome was Roman sculpture. Greek influence, but they just copied it literally. Roman copies of Greek sculptures are everywhere, but they also added their flair, maybe improved them a bit. The Nidos, for instance, was adapted to become more accessible and realistic in Roman eyes. And in monuments like Trajan's column, they told entire stories in stone. Let's think of it as it's a giant ancient comic strip about the Dacian Wars. If we are talking about the history of comics, why not to link ancient Romans to that, right? If we would like to compare these two styles, not too far geographically speaking, but pretty diverse, Greek art is all about idealism, perfection, the perfect body, the perfect temple, the perfect proportions, the perfect looks and measurements, the perfect balance. Everything in their emotional, especially Hellenistic art. The Greeks were still chasing beauty. Roman art, on the other hand, was much more practical and political, maybe even propaganda. It's all about showing power, control, and reality. Greek gods versus Roman emperors. Gods of beauty versus man of power. And if you think of that, till this day we have this, what's your Roman Empire? What is something you think about today? And we don't say it about Greeks. If Greek art is like a philosophy contemplating life, Roman art is like a politician making moves to control it. And indeed, till this day we have our Roman empires. So maybe Romans did something right with their take on classical art, because till these days people, especially men, are so intrigued by ancient Rome, not ancient Greece. Let's talk why it matters in 21st century. Both these cultures laid a solid foundation for everything that came after in Western world. You can't understand the Renaissance, Baroque, or even modernism without knowing what the Greeks and Romans did first. Again, I'll mention that they are a solid foundation for all Western societies, and majority of architecture we are surrounded with currently. So next time you see a statue missing its head or crumbling temple, remember these pieces aren't just relics. They are the blueprint of Western art and the society we are living in currently. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more. In the next episode, we'll be talking about early Christianity and Byzantine times. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching it until this point. I hope you really enjoyed my personal take on understanding ancient Greece and ancient Rome. If you would like more explanations on certain topics or certain periods within that particular style, let me know in the comments. And if you think I missed something, please let me know.